Good day to all. This is the continuation of workshop number 2, which was about how to study the Bible, developing our observational skills. So consider this as part 2. I'm going to start with atmosphere and tone, the context continued slide, which we did talk about. The key here is seeing if the author is communicating to us in the way that they arrange the actual sequence of events. Now remember, the Gospels are a sequence of events of episodes of the life of Jesus. So are there links between the episodes, or we would say between chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4? Are there similarities, repeated themes, or is there an abrupt change of tone or topic? I want to point out some things here I observed from looking at the context here. The theme of light and darkness is in chapter 1 and in chapter 3, verses 19 through 21. Then I saw that the role and sequence of John the Baptist as a witness. You see that in John 1 and John 3. And also how in chapter 3, verse 36, John the Baptist essentially repeats the essence of John 3:16. What really caught my attention was the next recorded conversation in chapter 4 with the Samaritan woman at the well. I compared the conversation starting with looking at the people. From Nicodemus, that we know a Pharisee, ruler, and teacher of Israel, he lived life strictly between or following the law, was part of the Sanhedrin council, and was also a teacher. Pharisees were usually middle-class businessmen respected in the community. Now this woman is not even named. She is a woman, a Samaritan who were despised by Jews as half-breeds, and her life sounds kind of sketchy, having had 5 husbands and the one she's with now was not her husband. And the fact that she's going to the well for water alone in the middle of the day. It's a little out of culture. Usually the women would go together in the morning before the heat of the day. Now Nicodemus probably would never be found in Samaria. Often they would walk all the way around rather than go through Samaria. And he would not have acknowledged probably her presence at all, except maybe in judgment, being a woman and definitely being a Samaritan woman. But Jesus did. He acknowledged her. And when you kind of look at the conversation, Jesus presented the same thing to both: salvation. He dealt with each one differently from where they were. He demonstrated John 3:16. If you think about it, God loved the world. These two people were on opposite ends of a spectrum, from what would be perceived as one that was respected citizen in the community to the lowest on the totem pole being a woman, a Samaritan, and morally speaking, living with a man that wasn't her husband. Looking at John 3:16, God gave his son. Well, this is the son that God gave. Jesus came and gave his time, his love, and offer of salvation to Nicodemus and this woman. That whoever believes in him, whoever means anybody, as shown by the differences between these two people. It was the same way to salvation for both of them. Nothing different. Shall not perish but have everlasting life. They each, both of them, were on the same course to destruction, perishing. Now they both, each one, can have everlasting life. Now, I don't know if you would say it's inferred, so they must have had the same problem. They both were born into iniquity, sin. They both needed a savior, and neither of them could save themselves. Here's something that I saw or learned. John 3:16 equals the playing field. It doesn't matter if you're like Nicodemus, well off financially, respected in the community, educated, a ruler over people, or this woman who's not even, we don't even get her name. So it's kind of interesting that Nicodemus could be hanging out with the Samaritan woman in heaven, a woman he would not even have ever acknowledged on earth. But thank goodness Jesus acknowledged both. So I'm like, he embodied the very verse we studied, John 3:16. Now, these two conversations are great studies on Jesus as a master teacher, looking how he met the needs of both of these two different people. Now, this was just me trying to analyze the conversation with Nicodemus. Now, this was just a review slide. Hopefully, we kind of have a better idea of atmosphere and tone. One story. Where is John 3:16? Now, I was literally able to break up John 3:16 and kind of put it along the timeline. I think as a whole, it would fit right in between Jesus' birth and ministry and crucifixion and resurrection. And I think as we remember that the one story is about God's plan for the redemption of mankind through his son, Jesus Christ, that we actually see the plan, Jesus, literally in action, presenting salvation to these two people individually. You have my contact. You also have, this is my YouTube channel, some videos I did several years ago dealing with observation and how to study the Bible. But feel free to contact me with questions or just sharing your aha moments. Our next workshop will continue with observation and go further into interpretation. Until next time, stay in the book.